The day Sinbad first heard about the magnetic mountain, he was not standing on a ship at all. He was walking through the busy market of his city, where baskets of oranges glowed in the sun and the air smelled of cinnamon and warm bread. Merchants called out cheerfully, children darted between stalls, and everything felt safe and ordinary. Yet at a small compass maker's table, Sinbad noticed something strange. A brass compass lay on a cloth, but its needle did not point north. It trembled, spun in circles, then stopped, only to spin again, as if the air itself were tugging at it. Before we continue, if you enjoy magical adventure stories, remember to like this story and subscribe, so you can sail with us on the next journey too. Sinbad, however, was too curious to think of anything except the restless compass. He looked up at the compass maker, who sighed deeply. "It has been like this since dawn," the man said. "Every compass near the harbour is unsettled." Sinbad frowned. "Why would a compass behave that way?" he asked. The compass maker lowered his voice. "A trader arrived this morning," he murmured. "He spoke of a mountain far out at sea, a mountain that pulls iron the way hunger pulls a wolf. Ships that sail too close lose their anchors, their nails, even their tools, as if the mountain steals the bones from the wood. People call it the magnetic mountain." Sinbad felt a quiet door open inside him. He had heard sailors mention such a place in half-joking voices, but the trembling needle was not a joke. That evening Sinbad met Captain Rashid, an old friend who trusted him. Rashid listened carefully as Sinbad described the market compass and the trader's rumour. "I do not like stories that swallow ships," Rashid said, rubbing his beard. "But I like even less the thought of sailors stumbling into danger without warning." Sinbad nodded. "If it is real, we should know," he replied. "And if it is only fear, we should calm it with truth." Rashid studied him, then gave a slow nod. "Very well," he said. "We sail at first light, but we sail with caution, not pride." Before dawn their ship slipped from the harbour into open water. The sea was calm, the sky pale and undecided, and the sailors moved quietly as if they did not want to wake the morning too quickly. Sinbad stood near the rail, breathing the cool air. The ship's compass seemed uneasy, its needle quivering like a nervous finger. Rashid ordered the crew to keep their tools secured and their eyes open. "A calm sea can still hide sharp secrets," he warned. For several days they sailed without trouble. They passed small islands where palm trees waved like friendly hands. They traded for fresh water and fruit, and at night the sailors told gentle stories beneath the stars. Sinbad watched the compass often. Sometimes it behaved normally, but sometimes it trembled, as if it could sense something pulling at it from far away. On the 6th day, the air grew hazy and the horizon looked blurred, as though the world had been smudged with the thumb. The compass needle began to spin again, steady and unsettling. Rashid called Sinbad to the helm. "Look," he said quietly, "it is as if north has disappeared." Sinbad noticed something else too. A metal buckles on belts tugged slightly. Nail heads along the deck seemed to vibrate. The sailors began whispering. Then the sea changed. Not with waves, but with sound. The water grew too quiet, as if it had swallowed its own voice. Even the gulls overhead drifted away. Ahead, a dark shape rose on the horizon. As they approached, it sharpened into a towering black mountain standing straight out of the sea, like a piece of night in daylight. No trees grew on it. No birds perched there. Its surface was jagged and strange, as if clawed by ancient storms. "The magnetic mountain," a sailor whispered, and his voice shook. Rashid ordered the sails adjusted to slow their approach. "We do not rush," he said firmly. But even as the ship slowed, the pull grew stronger. The compass spun wildly. The sailors' knives clinked against their belts as if trying to escape. Then a sharp metallic snap sounded from beneath the deck, followed by another. Iron nails began lifting from the ship's wood. At first they rose only slightly, trembling. Then they flew through the air toward the mountain, disappearing like dark birds. The crew cried out in fear. Some tried pressing nails back into the planks, but the invisible force was too strong. The ship shuddered as if it were losing its backbone. Sinbad felt fear rise, but he grabbed it like a sailor grabs a rope. "Rashid," he shouted, "we must remove what the mountain wants, or it will take it by force." Rashid's eyes flashed with understanding. "All iron," he roared. "Bring it all to the deck. Tools, knives, hooks, everything." The sailors obeyed quickly. Chests were opened, tool bags emptied, as a metal clattered onto the boards. The pull was so strong that pieces began sliding on their own toward the side facing the mountain. Rashid shouted, "Throw it overboard!" One by one, sailors tossed iron into the sea. The moment each piece left their hands, it shot through the air toward the mountain as if eager to return. The snapping slowed, but the ship still creaked dangerously. Rashid's jaw tightened. "The anchor," he said. Deep below, the heavy anchor chain trembled, already being pulled. Sinbad swallowed. "If we do not release it, the mountain will tear the ship apart," he said. Rashid nodded once, grim. Together they rushed to the chain. With a wooden wedge they forced the pin loose. The chain jumped like a living thing. Rashid shouted, "Back!" and the crew leapt away as the chain yanked free and shot into the air, ears dragging the anchor behind it. The ship rocked hard, suddenly lighter. The worst of the pulling eased. The crew stood panting, staring at the mountain as if it might reach out again. But Sinbad realized something frightening. Without iron nails and fittings, parts of the ship were weakening. Boards shifted. The vessel was afloat, but not safe for long. "We must get away," Rashid said lowly. Yet the sea around the mountain felt trapped, currents slowed by the strange force. The wind fluttered uncertainly. Sinbad closed his eyes briefly and listened. Then he remembered. When wind refuses, you borrow motion from your own strength. "Row," Sinbad said. "Bring the long oars. Even if we move slowly, we must move." The sailors lowered oars and began pulling, steady and determined. The ship crept forward. Each stroke gained a little distance. Sinbad watched the compass. The needle still spun, but its circles began to slow, as if the mountain's grip was loosening. As they moved away, Sinbad glanced back and saw wreckage near the mountain's base. Broken wood from ships that had come too close. Iron anchors, nails, hooks, and tools were stuck against the mountain's dark surface like trapped insects. It was a terrible sight, but it brought clarity. The mountain was not cruel. It was simply powerful. It pulled what it was made to pull, without thought or mercy. It was a lesson carved into stone. Nature does not always mean harm, but it always means strength. At last, a gust of wind arrived, cautious at first, then stronger. Rashid raised the sail carefully. The ship caught the breeze and began to glide. The sea slowly found its voice again. Small waves returned. The air lightened. The gulls came back, circling at a safe distance. When the mountain finally shrank behind them, the sailors collapsed in exhausted relief. Rashid sat beside Sinbad, watching the compass needle steady at last. "So the story was true," he murmured. Sinbad nodded. "True enough to break ships," he replied softly. Their ship was too weakened to travel far, so Rashid guided them toward the nearest friendly island. There, the crew repaired the vessel with creativity instead of iron. They used wooden pegs, braided rope, and resin from trees. Sinbad helped, learning again that survival is often a craft, not a battle. The sailors joked that they were building a ship the mountain could not taste, and even quiet laughter helped mend fear. When Sinbad returned home, the harbour felt like a blessing. He visited the compass maker and placed a pouch of gifts on his table. "Your compass was right to tremble," Sinbad said. "The magnetic mountain is real." The compass maker's eyes widened. "Then ships truly vanish?" he asked. Sinbad shook his head gently. "Ships vanish when pride sails too close," he replied. "But wisdom keeps distance, and calm thinking saves lives." That evening children gathered around Sinbad, eager for the tale. He did not speak of horror. He spoke of wonder and caution. He told them of a mountain that pulled iron as easily as a child pulls a toy, and of sailors who survived by working together and turning fear into careful action. He reminded them that some dangers are not enemies, but forces that must be respected, like fire that warms but burns when touched without care. And when Sinbad finally lay down to sleep, he thought of the dark mountain standing silent in the sea, covered in the iron bones of lost ships. He did not feel hatred toward it, only respect. He promised himself to sail with bravery, yes, but also with humility, because the world is vast and the safest traveller is not the one who pretends fear does not exist, but the one who listens to fear carefully and lets it guide them toward wiser choices.